Hey guys and gals, Never here from Drake Wing Gaming. This is a new Let's Play episode of Temptation's Ballad. So y'all, we are in the new place. There's a bit of an echo in this room because there's not a lot of like furniture or anything to absorb sound, so the kind of sound is kind of bouncing off the walls. So unfortunately, y'all might have to deal with that for a little bit unless I can find a way to kind of circumvent that. But yeah, anyway, I'm going to be bringing y'all more videos. This is a new video from the new apartment. We just moved in. Oh my goodness, it is nice here. We're just still getting everything in. But anyway, let's go ahead and jump right back in. Alarm chain, you were up, and let's go. Alrighty. Knight Commander Grank. You've only been out in the world for a few days. Be kinder to yourself. And it's festival season. You should be celebrating. Go have a few drinks with your mates and publicly humiliate some foppy nobles at the jousting tournament while you're at it.
Oh, Commander, don't even speak of that. I ruined the whole event.
Oh, please. The joust was always the most boring part of the festival. I tire of watching frilly noble children knock each other off their horses with glorified sticks. You should be proud of sparing them the humiliation.
If you say so.
Rank studied her still anxious face and let out an exasperated sigh. Dear girl, you need to learn to relax for once. Remind me after this mess is over to take you to a bar or something. That'll be quite an experience, eh?
Sir, we're paladins. We're immune to organic poisons. That includes alcohol.
The commander's face wrinkled with disgust. I know, it's awful. It's been years since I've managed to get absolutely shit-faced. At least the taverns still have a decent atmosphere, but it's not the same.
Language, sir.
Your mother's not here. I can say what I want.
Hey, I suppose it'd be out of line to argue with you.
Finally, perhaps you really are learning to have fun. Let me know when you're planning to hit your rebellious phase. We'll have to celebrate with a few drinks.
Artemi huffed indignantly, though her face betrayed a smile. My friend Cole mentioned frequenting such bars once. Perhaps I should join him sometime, as a chaperone at least.
Grank grimaced. The cute little hyena fella. I think his choice in bars may be too hardcore for you, dear girl. Artemi grumbled and crossed her arms indignantly.
That's what they said about the books, too.
Out of curiosity, which bar does this Cole fellow frequent? Just curious, that's all.
I believe he mentioned it was located at Rotten Red's Alley. It was a particularly happy one.
The Knight Commander broke into a jovial laugh and was about to say something of great importance, but his expression suddenly fell. Artemi followed his gaze and stiffened. The brief air of levity between them instantly deflated. The Grand Bishop quietly entered the main hall, her face narrowed with her usual stern glare. Artemi couldn't help but notice the slight limp in her step as she clutched her side. Another stab of guilt shot through her chest. She gulped and resisted the urge to gnaw on her thumb again.
Your Excellency!
Daughter?
Daughter?
Grank muttered something rude under his breath, which Katrina promptly ignored.
Your report on the day's events. I shall hear it. Of course!
Artemi saluted and nervously began her report. Oh boy. A low pause weighed over the main hall as Artemi finished recounting the day's events. The bishop's expression was cold and unreadable, making the experience utterly nerve-wracking. Finally, Katrina broke the tension with a sigh.
After your insistence on striking out on your own, I had hoped to see the barest modicum of results at the very least. Pity you failed even the lowest of my expectations. Artemi felt the pit in her stomach drop as she avoided her mother's gaze. A shadow suddenly loomed overhead. Grank had taken a step forward and stood stubbornly between her and the bishop.
Ah, yes, Your Excellency's expectations have always been famously reasonable.
Knight Commander, please don't start...
I, for one, have heard nothing but gratitude from the people who she had aided during the afternoon's recovery efforts. Artemi may not have met your excellent standards, but she has done nothing to deserve your ire. Katrina shot him a cold glare.
Can you deny her failures? She turned towards Artemi with a piercing look. Instead of focusing on your mission, you wasted your time with frivolous nonsense. Festival games and food, consorting with those barbarian mercenaries, upending the entire jousting tournament. But Mother, I can explain. And how, pray tell, did an actual demon manage to attack your companion right from under your nose?
Artemi shrank back with each biting word. Second, y'all. Water time. If y'all can think of ways for me to alleviate the echo in the room, I'd love to hear it. Her heart was pounding viciously against her chest, and she struggled to think of something to say. Grank growled and waved his hand dismissively. Artemis scarcely has any experience with the outside world thanks to your wonderful meddling. Is it any wonder that she's a little distracted with spending time with friends?
Is that truly your best excuse?
Excuse me. You can't truly expect her to solve all the city's problems on her own. We should arrange her efforts to make trusted allies.
Oh, please, those friends of hers are only taking advantage of her naivety and her strength as the Creator's chosen. Why else would anyone want to keep her around? Katrina sneered. You may not like what you hear, daughter, but my words are always honest and true. Unlike those lowly peasant friends of yours, you will discover.
Well, that's quite enough out of you, woman.
You dare speak to me in that tone? I am the Grand Bishop.
Grank and the bishop descended into a heated, spitting argument, their voices echoing harshly against the hall's empty walls. Artemi shrunk back, anxiously gnawing at her gloved thumb as she tried to calm her pounding heartbeat. Her head throbbed with a dizzying pain against the shouting voices. She wanted to ask them to just stop fighting, but it was all she could do to just keep her breath steady. Instead of throwing your authority around at every waking moment, you could try to do something useful for once.
I have an entire church to organize, and unlike you, I do not have the leisure to freely spoil this useless child. The church will have a competent chosen. If this child isn't able to fulfill that role, we will find one more fitting. A deathly glare shrouded Grank's face as he took a step forward, his massive shadow looming over the bishop. No need to dance around with words, Your Excellency. You intend to kill her. How very motherly of you. The bishop glared right back, utterly unflinching. You of all people have no right to judge my methods, Grank Stormborn. Everything I do is in the name of our Creator and the greater good. You, on the other hand, do not have that excuse. Or have you forgotten your own misdeeds?
Silence fell over the cathedral. Artemi looked up, confusion swimming through her throbbing headache.
Your misdeeds?
The Grand Bishop let out a cruel laugh that echoed through the empty hall.
My dear daughter, do you mean to tell me that you don't know? It is all but an open secret within the church. I did promise you my honesty. Let me tell you the filth that your dear Knight Commander has concealed from you.
Grank's low growl shook low, reverberating through her chest as she glared at the bishop with an intensity Artemi had never seen. You will choose your next words very carefully, woman. Katrina's smile only widened as she sneered.
See this, daughter. See how these lowlives try to withhold the truth from you. Even your Knight Commander, who you so dearly admire, refuses to be wholly honest. As I said before, you may not like my methods, but I will always be true to you. Knight Commander, what is she talking about?
Grank was silent. His steely glare faltered, and for a moment he looked truly lost for words.
You see, before his rise as an honored blessed knight of the church, our good Grank Stormborn was a criminal of the highest order. Burglary, smuggling, murders, amid the organized crimes within the deepest bowels of Rotten Red's Alley, our dear Knight Commander was indeed the worst of the worst. Both the church knights and the city watch sought his head, for he was worth more dead than alive. Artemi stilled, her mind racing. She stared up pleadingly at the Knight Commander, but the old bear refused to meet her gaze. Oh, and on the day the church knights finally managed to arrest this scum of a man, he managed to add child murder as a final addition to his list of crimes. Truly the most honorable knight in our court. Heavy silence fell upon the grand hall. Artemi squeezed her eyes shut. Everything was moving too fast. She just wanted everything to stop. It's like, water time. Alternatively, I could try lowering my voice a bit, but I'm speaking at normal volume right now, so... Grank took a step forward, towering over the bishop with broiling fury. Horrid wench! Will you not be satisfied until you've torn down everything you can reach with your grubby little claws? What is the matter, Commander? Have your sins finally caught up with you? Please stop.
That's rich. I look forward to the day where you finally reap what you've sown, Grand Bishop.
I'm afraid you will be dead and buried far before that time comes, Stormborn.
You overstep your bounds.
Watch yourself. You may be Roderick's personal lapdog, but I hold the leash.
Best watch your back. A leash can be pulled from either end.
Is that so? Please!
Something snapped. Artemi clamped her eyes shut, a torrent of lightning swarming around her as she let out a ragged cry.
Please, stop fighting! Branches upon branches of lightning poured from her trembling figure like an isolated storm. The acrid smell of ozone filled the air, sparks of celestial magic cutting across the hall in blinding streaks. It was all Artemi could do to keep her breath steady as her mind spun in agonizing circles. The bishop's response was immediate. Her mother's hand shot up and Artemi felt herself being violently thrown back by a blast of force. Her back cracked against the cathedral's walls with a deafening crack, the stone fracturing from the impact. Artemi clutched her head, the world spinning around her. She was vaguely aware of the Knight Commander rushing to her side, asking if she was all right in a worried hush. When she opened her eyes, all she could see was her mother's enraged face with her arms clutching her scarred abdomen. It was a face of turmoil. It was a face in turmoil of disgust, hatred, and fear. Get out! Get out! Foul child, what must I do to be rid of you? Mother, Out! Artemi's heart clenched. She staggered onto her feet and fled the church as fast as her legs could take her. Jeez. Mother is fucking awful. A cold night air hit her lungs in a merciful embrace. Artemi fell to her knees as the grand cathedral's doors slammed shut behind her. Her heart hammering her chest as she struggled to see straight. Too much was happening all at once. She could barely make sense of anything. Artemi took a shaking deep breath and tried to steady herself. Suddenly the cathedral doors creaked open. She needn't turn to know who it was. Grank quietly shut the door behind him and sat down next to her on the steps. The two of them were silent for a breath. Artemi almost could feel his concerned gaze even as she hung her head low. After a moment she finally spoke. Was what Mother spoke of true? Yes. As she said, it's a bit of an open secret within the church. Even the child murder? Grank was stone-faced in silence. On the day of my arrest, the church knights cornered me in an alleyway where street urchins frequented. There were casualties. Artemi paused, eyes trained at the marbled steps at her feet. Why did you never tell me? Grank sighed. Throughout most of my life, I've done little of worth. Even after being elevated to the rank of Knight Commander, I've been little more than a puppet on strings. Everything I've done since, it was dictated by either the church or the royal family. Even my rank of Knight Commander was chosen for me. There was no choice for me to make. I walked every step as ordered with little thought or feeling. The old bear's eyes softened. But you, my dear pupil, you are one of the few things I feel privileged to have in my life. The way you always looked up to me with such undeserved admiration. I suppose I wanted to avoid disappointing you for as long as I could. Second, water time. Alrighty, back to it. I see. Artemi. Grank took a deep breath, weighing his words with care. He reached down and gently grasped Artemi's hand in his own. Now that you have escaped your mother's reins, you will discover things about yourself and those around you that will prove trying. But I want you to know, throughout all the secrets and deception, my love for you as your mentor was always true. I have always been proud of being part of your life. Always. Artemi stared at his hand for several moments before quietly shaking him off. Thank you. Your words mean a lot, truly. But I'm not sure what to really believe anymore. A low chuckle escaped the bear's throat. A reasonable sentiment. Perhaps it's best you spend the night away from the cathedral to clear out your head. I'm sure your new friends will be happy to have you. Yes, I think that would be for the best. I wish you well, Artemi. The Knight Commander gave her one last warm nod before returning inside the cathedral. The rumbling thud of the stone doors had never felt so heavy. Artemi found herself alone on the marble steps of the grand cathedral, staring out into the cold, dark night. The realization that she was utterly lost and alone felt like an abrupt knife wound to the chest. She slowly picked herself up with shaking legs and stumbled down the cobblestone path. Ah, chosen one, just what I wanted to see. I'm glad I could catch you before the day's end. Huh? Artemi blinked as a familiar figure quietly swooped out of the night sky. Agatha's wings fluttered as she landed lightly on her feet. The old bat's grin fell into a look of concern as she caught sight of Artemi's face. Oh dear, what happened? You look awful. Enchanter Agatha? What are you doing here this time of night? Oh, well, The enchanter cleared her throat awkwardly. I just wanted to come and apologize for dumping all that baggage on you earlier today. My feelings might have gotten the better of me, very unprofessional. You have enough on your shoulders already, and it was rather unbecoming of me to add yet more out of the blue.
Alright guys and gals, I'm going to go ahead and pause it right there. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, ring that notification bell, and check out our Patreon if you can. It always helps. Anyway, I love you all. I'll see you all in the next video. Bye-bye!